Hey guys, today I'm talking about a true lifesaver in the garden. One of the things that you really need to integrate into your vegetable garden, and that's just common baking soda. And it makes a huge difference. It can prevent so many problems from popping up. And as we're approaching the end of summer, usually my problems with diseases and other issues are much, much worse. This year, since using baking soda, it's really made a difference. So I'm going to go over 10 separate things that baking soda will help you do. I'll give you the formulas as I go along and how to use it on each circumstance. So just follow along and you'll see that baking soda can make a massive difference in your vegetable garden. Now this bed of straight neck squash is a perfect example of what I'm talking about using baking soda on your vegetables. I treated each one of these except for one, and you can probably tell which one I did not use baking soda, and that's the one closest to the camera. It's succumbed to heat stress, disease, and other issues. So I just wanted to see what would happen. Usually this time of year, I'm having a lot more problems. We've had an extremely hot summer, lots of bugs, lots of insects, and usually by now, because of the humidity we have here in 7-8, there's usually a lot more diseases and fungal issues. So I'm going to show you exactly what you need to do in step one of getting rid of those problems in your vegetable garden. But this is a perfect example of what happens when you don't use it. You'll have the problems earlier than you would. And so this is really a lot healthier than it was last year at the same time. So baking soda can help prevent fungal diseases such as powdery mildew, and they're very common in cucumbers, squash, and tomatoes, which is predominantly the thing that I really enjoy eating in the garden. And my cucumbers have done quite well this year with minimal issues because I'm using the baking soda. So let's head into the greenhouse and I'll show you how to mix up the antifungal formula with baking soda. So to make a antifungal with baking soda is super simple. It's not hard at all. You just need to take 1 gallon of water, preferably rainwater or well water. You want to try to reduce the amount of chemical waters that you're using, such as has chlorine and fluoride. So that would be a better option, is to do a rainwater barrel. I'll make a video about that pretty soon. But you're going to take a tablespoon of baking soda. I may have to do this twice to keep from making a mess there. It's not quite a full tablespoon. And we're going to put it in a gallon of just room temperature water. Now you can use two kinds of soap. I like to use Johnson's baby shampoo because I have it in the greenhouse. I've been using it for years without any ill effects. You can also use Castile soap, which is a vegetable-based soap, but you're only going to use a few drops of this in your gallon of water. And basically this is just to allow it to stick to the leaves, and you want to make sure that you mix it well. So we're going to shake it well, head out to the garden, and I'll show you exactly how to apply it. Now, I usually tell you to buy one of these solo sprayers because they work really good around vegetable plants, and I'll explain to you why in just 1 second. Now, I constantly recommend these solo sprayers because you can spray the underside of leaves, and that's really important when you're trying to get fungal problems under control. Sometimes funguses can form under the leaves, so it's good to be able to go under the leaf, spray from beneath, and spray from above. I've got, I think, 5 of these solo sprayers, and they all work so well in the garden. So you're just going to lightly go around your squash, cucumbers, tomatoes, and other vegetables. It's not going to harm them. It's not harmful at all. And you're just going to make sure you spray the undersides and on top, and just go around the entire garden doing this. And you want to do this once per week and reapply after a moderate to heavy rain. Now, vegetables grow better in slightly acidic soils. So if you have very alkaline soils, this is something you need to do. But you're going to take some baking soda and lightly sprinkle it on the top of your soil. You want to remove any leaves or mulch and work it into the top 1 to 3 inches of your soil and let it mix well to bring down that alkaline soil. You also want to test your soil first. I've got a pH tester. I'll put a link down below to that pH tester. I actually have had many pH testers over the year. This one is super simple to use, so you can get this for $20, $25, and you don't have to do any complicated testing with liquids and other test kits. Just use a pH tester that I'll link down below, and it'll work a lot better. But what you're wanting to do is you want to bring down the soil to a little bit more acidic, or I should say, if it's alkaline, you want to bring it up. But if it's too acidic, you want to make sure you know that before you do that. So you're going to work it into the top 1 to 3 inches of soil after you've tested it. Now wait a week, retest it, and if it's still too alkaline, add a little bit more. But probably you want to go about 1 tablespoon to 1 square foot of area you have. So that's what I'm trying to remember, because a lot of people are asking me, what are the exact formula. So I'm trying to give you those as I go. Hopefully I won't forget that. But about 1 tablespoon to about 1 square foot. Work it into the top of the soil and then wait that 1 week before you retest and make sure it's not too acidic. Now, there's never a year where I don't have issues with insects in the garden. It's just part of life here in the South in Zone 7A. But one of the simplest ways you can make a completely safe, very safe insecticide is taking equal parts. I usually do about half a cup of baking soda and half a cup of white flour, bleached white flour, mix them together, and then I put them in my duster. And I'll put a link in the description to the exact duster I use. But you don't want to try to do this by hand because you want just an extremely light dusting on your plants that's going to take care of those insects. But just remember, you don't want to use I guess you would call it the old-fashioned duster because it might put too much. I'll put one that will work best for you, but that's a great way to get insects out of the garden without using any toxic pesticides. Now, another thing you can do with baking soda is around your tomatoes at the base of the plant, work in about 1 tablespoon per plant into the soil, and that can sweeten the potatoes. Brings the acidity to just the right level to change the flavor. So I think that's one of the things that I love so much about tomatoes is the flavors. So that's one thing you can do is just do that at the beginning of the season when your tomatoes have just started to produce, not when they're just seedlings, but when they've actually started to produce tomatoes. Then you can add that 1 tablespoon per plant. Now, last week I noticed there was some weeds popping up in the walkways around my beds, and what I do is I sprinkle a quite vigorous amount of the baking soda on top of the weeds, and this, you can see right here that it's killed a lot of them off. So that's one thing that you can use it for, is a herbicide in larger quantities, and it really does the number, especially when it's hot weather. It's going to work really better. So I would say in a weeded area like this, I'll just take a spoon and just douse it right on top of the weeds, probably using, in this little area right here, I probably use 3 or 4 tablespoons to overwhelm the weeds there. So it does make a very safe herbicide. Now, a while back, I made this composter. It's a simple trash can. I've turned it into a composter. I put all of my scraps from the vegetable garden, things that I've cut, vegetables that didn't quite look right or just had an issue with them, and I put them in this composter, add a little bit of black cow to it. I've got a video I'll link up above that tells you how to make this. But one of the things when it comes to baking soda is I will add 2 heaping tablespoons to this once a month starting in the springtime and just mix it well into the compost. That cuts down on odors, and it really helps the compost get started for next year's application to the vegetables. Now, another thing you can do with baking soda is you can clean your seed trays. You can make a paste with the baking soda, 2 or 3 heaping tablespoons of baking soda and a small amount of water. Mix it together until you have like a toothpaste consistency. Take a scrub brush and you can scrub down your seed trays, and that will remove any harmful pathogens. So that's another great thing. If you know anything about baking soda, it also makes good toothpaste. So one thing that many people I've talked to don't know this particular formula, but this is a plant boosting growth formula. You'll take 1 tablespoon of baking soda, 1 tablespoon of Epsom salt, and 1 teaspoon of regular ammonia. You can usually find this at the dollar store. You're going to mix all this together in 1 gallon of water, and you're going to water your plants once per month with this. I would say each plant probably gets maybe about half a cup to maybe 3/4 a cup of water. Just put it in your watering can and go around to each plant. Again, you don't want to do this very often, just once a month. Now, another thing you can do with the baking soda is you can protect your root vegetables such as potatoes, radishes, carrots. When you first plant them, you can put a very thin layer of the baking soda on the soil and wait until it rains and reapply it until they've established themselves. That can kill off some of the underground pests that might attack your root vegetables before they have a chance to really mature. So that's not something you want to do a lot. You want to do it very sparingly, but you just want to get them off to a good start. That would be a great thing to do. So if your garden is like my garden, it is constantly frequented by your pets. We have many cats in our garden, and sometimes they do like to dig in the raised vegetable beds because they think it's their own personal place to relieve themselves. But anyways, one thing you can do with baking soda is in the area that's been affected, sprinkle baking soda, about a teaspoon over that area, and mix it into the soil. Water it in well, and that can reduce odors and also help protect your vegetables. Remember, when using this baking soda, you want to use it in moderation. Do a test plant. If you have many plants of the same variety, do a test on one of those plants to make sure there's no adverse reactions and make sure that it works the way you want to. Give it about 5 to 7 days to make sure nothing goes wrong when you're using any of these formulas, because you never know, There's a lot of variables. It could be a lack of rain. Maybe it's really hot like it is now. There's a heat wave going on. So it's just better to test before you make a mistake and use it in your entire garden. So a test area is always recommended. So that is the 10 ways, or my 10 favorite ways I use baking soda in and around the garden. And I may have left out a few. If I did, if there's something you do with baking soda that I've forgotten about, because there's many things I've done over the years in experimentation, let me know in the comments section. I hope you like the video, and I hope you'll like and subscribe. Have a great day.